Hi everyone, welcome to another episode in our I&D video series where we look to speak to our key partners around the roles that they play in driving and ensuring greater diversity and inclusion. To introduce Lorien, we're a technology specialist recruitment solutions provider with a proud 40-year heritage, and we work with all sizes of customers to deliver MSP, RPO, total talent recruitment solutions. Today I'm joined by Lara Montefiori from Arctic Shores. Lara's Arctic Shores Chief Science Officer, and if you don't know who Arctic Shores are, they provide market-leading gamified psychometric testing. Here at Lorien, we're a huge fan of theirs, and their tech has really enhanced the solutions where we have worked together. Morning, Lara, and thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate it. To kick off and really get straight into it, I know that Arctic Shores, certainly when we've worked with you before, really focus on I&D and particularly neurodiversity. To ask the really obvious question, why does a neurodiverse workforce present a competitive advantage to those organisations that have one?
So I think we should start by saying that hiring widely on the neurodiversity spectrum is the right thing to do. And I think we can all agree with that. We are experiencing a shift from just seeing neurodiversity and hiring on that spectrum as a matter of fairness, equity, and civil rights, to a matter of celebrating the importance of a collaborative environment where everybody inputs and experiences valued. So we experiencing that shift. So the focus now is what can we achieve with all this neurodiversity in the workplace? And I think the best way of describing this is by talking about two main concepts in psychology. One is cognitive diversity and the other one is psychological safety. So I know the cognitive diversity is a big buzzword and everybody's talking about it, but everybody has their own idea of what that means. When I think about cognitive diversity, I think about combining unique viewpoints and unique perspectives and styles into solving a problem. So what happens is that by doing so, we can solve problems faster, we can solve problems better, and we can come up with more innovative solution to our problems. So the way in which this works is that we all contribute with what we know. We all use our skills, we all use our perspective. So I will put on the table what I know and what I can do, but then all other people will do that as well. And the more diversity that there is to all those things that we put on the table, give us a much more rounded understanding of any problems that we may be trying to solve. At the same time, on the flip side, actually, we won't fall into the trap of groupthink. So we won't be perpetuating the same biases, the same shortcoming, and we won't be all operating with the same blind spots. So this will allow us to shake the direction and shake the approach a little bit here and there, and having more variety in what we do and how we solve problems and so forth. Also, cognitive diversity in team is a predictor of happiness in team and is a predictor of the level of resilience that a team has to change, because if you think about it, when presented with a new problem, there's many different ways of going about it. So a change doesn't have all that detrimental effect on problem solving as if everybody was thinking exactly in the same way. So also, teams that are more cognitively diverse tend to be more engaged. And we know that engagement is a predictor of team performance, and more engaged team consistently outperform less engaged team despite the cognitive ability level. So this is the first big concept about why that neurodiversity in the workplace could be a competitive advantage. So it's a better quality of solution. But then there's also a concept of psychological safety. So knowing that your employer is truly inclusive and really cares about everybody and cares about incorporating different worldviews and life experience can make a huge difference in how both neurotypical and neurodiverse employees feel and experience the workplace. So, for example, that can make the difference between seeing mistakes as opportunities rather than threats to their own careers, being more willing to take risks, being more comfortable in speaking their minds if if somebody has a slightly, divergent opinion, and instead of being less comfortable sharing those opinions, and those are normal opinions that can be immensely useful. Also, with higher psychological safety, employees are more comfortable talking about their struggle and failures, opening and inspiring other people to doing so, and thereby learning from each other. Also, there's more trust with colleagues and leaders instead of fear, instead of resent. And also it inspires people to use and express their own diversity. So there's not just cognitive diversity, there's not just neurodiversity, but there's many different diversity above and beyond the neurological spectrum, and that will create an even more diverse workplace. So these two main concepts, I think, they're the biggest one to leverage in terms of competitive advantage of hiring across the spectrum.
Wow, that is so interesting, Laura. And obviously, I knew that obviously neurodiversity and promoting it is absolutely the right thing to do, but to kind of sum that up, we're saying that a neurodiverse workforce gives you more creativity, more problem solving, that old adage about doing things the way you've always done it. Neurodiversity in your workforce prevents that. But also the bit around higher engagement and actually making your employees feel like they belong more and give them a bit more trust. It's just compelling, isn't it? Absolutely compelling. So moving on then, we know the advantages of having a neurodiverse workforce. So how can firms such as Lorien and some of our clients, how can they help remove barriers to entry and embrace a more neurodiverse workforce, either through recruitment or through retaining the current people?
Yeah. So I specialize in recruitment, so I can talk to you about how I feel that this can be done from the selection process. And I think the key is removing impediment to how people can showcase their true potential all throughout the selection process. So focusing on the right format of assessment is crucial to enable people to really show what they can do. So you want to choose an assessment that doesn't generate more stress. So an assessment that is not seen as something that systematically discriminates in that format against the person who's taking the test. So it has to be an assessment that doesn't add necessary barriers to with language, for example. And so if you think about dyslexia, do you need all that language in your assessment? Chances are you don't. But also an assessment that has an inbuilt is a natively neurodiverse friendly assessment. So not an assessment in which you just have to give a blanket 25% more time for people to complete, but an assessment that really does understand neurodiversity and identifies different patterns, emerging patterns of data that are linked to strengths in the neurodivergent sample rather than focusing on what people cannot do. And for example, the assessment that we developed, BBA, behavioral-based assessment, really does that. So we think about creativity with ADHD, for example, not just distraction. We think about an amazing attention to detail in autism, not just the lower social skills, and out-of-the-box thinking in dyslexia, not just reading speed. So really thinking about what can people bring to the workplace that is either equal to the neurotypical counterpart, or even better. But also one really important thing, and this goes above and beyond the format of the assessment, is really focus on what is important, really basing the scoring models entirely on skills and qualities that make it or break it. So, for example, spatial ability tests. Do people really need that spatial ability to perform in the workplace? And I always ask myself, what happens? What's the worst that can happen if people can't do this? So do they really need to use the social skills, or is their attention to detail and enhance objectivity a lot more important to the role? Or how can we overcome the cost of ADHD, for example, with project planning software, performance tracking, reminders? We live in an era of many, many different software. So we can definitely overcome the shortcoming of a specific condition. But what about if we leverage and harvest that immense creativity and we translate that into innovation in our products? So I think this is always important. It's always important to really zero in what is crucial to high performance in a role. But this is even more important for neurodivergent candidates because neurodivergent candidates don't necessarily fit the mold of what we know. So we tend to be stuck on what we know, and that is normally the description of the majority. So relatively sociable, conscientious, calculated risk taker, rational decision maker. Those are the qualities that we know. Do they translate into performance in the workplace? We don't know. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So that's why we need to go back into what is really important and how can we be more inclusive with that. And I think taking the plunge and exploring the value of talent in unusual places and in unusual expression will leave people positively surprised.
Brilliant. There's so much to unpick there. But when you talked about how certain characteristics have better creativity, better attention to detail, all these aspects of what all of our clients ask for in their tech workforce. I know that when I've worked with Arctic Shores previously, we work closely with one of your business psychologists, and we really sit with our clients and we really work out what does success look like in this role, and then you guys take that away and you really build a kind of profile of the kind of attributes that we look for in each role. So I know from working with every assessment we build is really bespoke with that end goal in mind, and it isn't what's on a job description. This is what kind of traits you want from people in these roles, and I think that's super important. I'm a big believer in it. Lorien are a big believer in it. In assessment, not just going these people are good, these people are bad, but assessment actually uncovering hidden talent. The best candidates usually don't have the best CVs, sometimes don't come across amazing at the first interview, but they are the best candidates for that role, and that's why we try and build an assessment solution to uncover that hidden talent. So that was super interesting. I just want to thank you, Laura, so much for your time today. I know how busy you are, both academically and with Arctic Shores, and I really look forward to working with yourself on Arctic Shores. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me.
No problem at all.